Hi guys, it's Michelle with Deception Bytes, and it is February 12th. Today, all day until 12 o'clock midnight, which we're quickly approaching here. It's 11:46 if you're on medication, and it's 11:46 even if you're not. So let's get started because Q made several posts today. Earlier in the day, I just got home a little while ago and I started looking at these, and some stuff started jumping out at me and slapping me around. So we've really got some stuff to go over today. Now, I'm going to bring you up to the latest post, and that is, unless he, posts within the next 10 minutes, which, you never know. But I'm going to take you up to the post that we have at this time. So let me go back to I think this is where we left off actually. There's February 11th, and I know we finished that. So here we are, February 12th, 1:05, and this is from an anonymous user on the 8chan, and they said, the fact Q brought up Ginsburg and then she lands on CNN the same day, front page, speaks volumes. We are missing something. Now, that happens quite frequently with Q, and of course, if you've been following these posts, you know that. A lot of things will happen. He'll just throw a name out there and bang, it's in the news. So Q responds to that and says, and we know that he's responding to them because he's pointing them out right here and saying, here to stay. No, you're not. Q. Now he's talking about Ginsburg because that is something that she said. I'm here to stay. She is rabidly liberal and vehemently anti-Trump. So let's just go take a look at her. I think the important thing here is not about her per se, but that Q is pointing out that, okay, she might think she's staying, she's not. So that's interesting. See, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a Supreme Court justice, here to stay. And I don't even really think that we need to read this because I don't think it's important. I think the important part was that Q was pointing out, here to stay? No, she's not. So that's what he wanted us to get from that. I'm quite certain. But if not, I'm sure he'll bring it up again in the future. Or we'll probably just see her resign or quietly slip away. Or maybe not so quietly. All right, now the next post, February 12th, it says The Inner Circle. Mika Brzezinski, background, family careers. Now he's talking about Mika Brzezinski. He's saying, what's her background? What about her family and careers? And then he mentions McLean, Virginia. Now, I have to laugh at myself because I thought this was a person. Virginia McLean. I'd never heard that word before. It's actually a place. Yeah. So, let's start off where he wanted us to look at Mika Brzezinski. Now, if you've heard the news or read the news or whatever, we know that she and Trump are definitely not friends. So let's go see who she is when she's not at home. Mika Brzezinski, born May 2nd, 1967, an American news presenter and author who currently co-hosts MSNBC's weekday morning broadcast show, Morning Joe. She was formerly a CBS news correspondent and was their principal Ground Zero reporter. This is important. Ground Zero reporter during the morning of September 11th, 2001 attacks. In 2007, she joined MSNBC as an occasional anchor and was subsequently chosen as co-host of Morning Joe. Mika Brzezinski is a visiting fellow at Harvard Institute of Politics. Her main political interest is in wage equality for women. She is also the author of 3 books, 2 on her career as a journalist and 1 on food addiction. Brzezinski is the daughter, this is important, Brzezinski is the daughter of the late diplomat and political scientist Zbigniew Brzezinski, who served as advisor to both Lyndon B. Johnson and Jimmy Carter. Now, early life, she was born in New York City. She was a daughter of Polish-born foreign policy expert and former national security advisor Zbigniew Brzezinski and Swiss-born sculptor Emily Anna Besanova. Her mother, of Czech descent, is a grandniece of Czechoslovakia's former president Edvard Beneš. Her father was teaching at Columbia University when she was born. Her family moved to McLean, Virginia, and that's important, and we're going to see why, near Washington, D.C. in late 1976, when Zbigniew was named National Security Advisor by newly elected President Jimmy Carter. Her brother, Mark Brzezinski, is an American diplomat and was the United States ambassador to Sweden from 2011 to 2015. Her second brother is military expert Ian Brzezinski. She is the first cousin of the author Matthew Brzezinski. Brzezinski attended the Madeira School and then enrolled at Georgetown University. During her junior year, she transferred to Williams College in Wilmington, Massachusetts, and graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in English in 1989. Now, this is the important part that I think Hugh wanted us to look at. She's evidently one of the elite. Evidently. She probably got her job because of who she knows. And I don't mean that as any sort of slam against her. A lot of people get their jobs because of who they know. And there's also lots and lots and lots of other talented reporters that will not get jobs because they do not have the connections. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not insulting her in any way or taking away from her accomplishments. I don't think that there's anything else important here except that, of course, down here, during the 2016 presidential campaign, then presidential candidate Donald Trump tweeted several times his disdain for both Brzezinski and Scarborough. In March 2000, I wonder why, though. You know, they don't say that. They never say, you know, what brought it on. In March 2017, Brzezinski called Trump's presidency fake and failed. And soon thereafter, Trump unfollowed Brzezinski and Scarborough on Twitter. In late June 2017, Brzezinski was again the target of Trump's tweets in which he called her low IQ, crazy Mika, and asserted that she was bleeding badly from a facelift. That's not even funny, but I had to laugh. Okay, I'm back now. Brzezinski and Scarborough then accused the White House of threatening to blackmail them with an expose in a tabloid magazine unless the pair apologized publicly to the president. And of course, we don't know how much any of that is true. I'm sure there was a tweet war because I do seem to remember that. But, you know, beyond that, who knows? Because anybody can edit Wikipedia. Okay, let's go back. So, we looked at her background, we looked at her family, her careers. Now, she lives in McLean, Virginia. So why is that? Why would that be relevant? And why would this show that she belongs to the inner circle? Well, turns out, I didn't know this, McLean is home to many diplomats, businessmen, members of Congress, and high-ranking government officials, partly due to its proximity to Washington, D.C., and the Central Intelligence Agency. It is the location of Hickory Hill, the former home of Ethel Kennedy, the widow of John F. Kennedy. It is also location of Salona, the former house of Light Horse Harry Lee, the Revolutionary War hero. The community had an estimated total population of 53,673 in 2015, according to estimates prepared by the United States Census Bureau. It is located between the Potomac River and the town of Vienna. McLean is known for its luxury homes and its high-end shopping destinations. The Tysons Corner Center and the Tysons Galleria, the two McLean zip codes, 22101 and 22102, are among the most expensive zip codes in Virginia and the United States. In 2018, data from the American Community Survey revealed that McLean was the third wealthiest city in the United States based on its poverty rate of 2.6%, and its median household income of $190,258, and that's the median. So, okay, she lives in a very elite community, and she's, connected to many elites, and she herself is one. So, yeah, I agree. She's probably part of the inner circle. And Q, of course, is telling us so. Now, she said the age of tech has hurt their ability to hide control. And I was thinking about that. And I thought, what might he mean by that? And I guess really, before the internet, people really didn't, you might have seen people on TV, but you didn't know where they lived or what their home looked like or anything really about them. But in this day and age, it's hard to hide anything about anyone, and our digital footprint remains there forever. So it's really hard to hide. It is almost impossible to hide unless you just stay offline altogether. But anyway, I think that's what he's talking about. He said majority today were born into the circle. And of course, we know that happens. There are elite families, and that gets passed down. Now, he gives us a tip. He says, investigate those in front of the camera who scream the loudest. These people are really stupid. End is near. The media cleanse /JFK Q. So what he's saying is those that are screaming the loudest, probably have the most to hide. And who knows? I mean, that makes sense to me. Certainly makes sense. So let's push on here to some really interesting things. Okay, you ready? Because we're about to get really, really interesting stuff here. Now, I made that picture so big because I wanted everybody to see it. Now, this was posted by an anonymous user on 8chan. And he says, I wonder why, or he or she says, I wonder why Barack Hussein Obama is depicted sitting in a bush. Now, I don't know if you have heard about their portraits being painted, and they hired it's always been white presidents, of course, before Barack Obama, and they were always painted by white artists. So they wanted to have a black artist, and I don't have a problem with that. I think that that's totally appropriate. But this is the portrait this is the painting that he did. And of course, now, and I'm not saying that, again, I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I do have one of my undergraduate degrees is in art. And one of the things that we had to do over and over and over and over again is take art and dissect it, because it all means something. When artists paint something, if they're really high level artists, usually there's a lot of layered meaning in there. So, and Q is really telling us this as well, because obviously Q knows that as well. Now, we're going to look at the picture that Q responded with first, because then it's going to enlighten us a bit about what this picture is actually telling us. So let's go down here. Now, we've seen this picture. We've all seen this picture many, many times. And it's a picture of Bill Clinton and Kim Jong-il. Podesta is standing behind Bill Clinton. I don't know who these other people are, so there'd be no sense in me saying that I do. I just haven't researched it that deeply. And this is not a good resolution picture, but I did go out and find one, but I bet you, no, I don't have it. I remember now. I closed out of the website, and I'm sorry, but you guys can go out there, and if you, I think I Googled President Clinton and Kim Jong-il and brought this up quite easily. There's a lot out there, and there's some that are higher resolution, so I would suggest that you guys do that, because there's something that Q wants us to see here, and he's going to tell us. He says, first of all, he says, find the link and look around. What does it signify? Now, what's he talking about? find the link. What link? Is he talking about the link to the picture? No, he's not. What is the link between these two pictures? This picture up here and of Obama that we just saw, and this picture down here. There's a link, okay? Look around. What does it signify? Q. Now, they obviously didn't get it the first time, and I didn't either. So I'm not saying, you know, I'm some mental giant, but I gotta go up and then we'll go back again. Sorry. Where the heck did all my stuff go? Okay, hang on here. I apologize. And thank you to all you guys that keep saying, you don't have to apologize. Stop apologizing. I am originally Canadian, and that is a very, very cultural thing. It's very cultural, and it's so ingrained in us. It really is. And it's just, I can't even help it. It's just, I do it and I don't even think about it. So anyway. Sorry, I'm trying. Okay, here we are back here. Now let's go up and see what Q says about these pictures, and we're going to go back and I'm going to point some things out to you. Okay, Q, this is Q. He's posting it again, and he's posting it so that he can refer to it up here. What are they sitting on? And he's talking about these guys, okay? What are they sitting on? And perfectly lined up? Why? Highly symbolic, he says. Trying to make this bigger. I know some of you guys are on your phones and on your tablets. So, Q is saying, what are they sitting on? Well, interestingly enough, they're sitting on lotus flowers. And they are perfectly over the lotus flowers, and they are lined up perfectly. I mean, the chairs are lined up perfectly so that each is sitting directly over the lotus in the same exact position. And Q says, perfectly lined up? Yeah, perfectly lined up to be in the center of the flower. And then he says, why? Highly symbolic. Learn, Q. Now, we're about to get into some interesting stuff here. At least it's interesting to me. I won't speak for you. Okay, now the lotus flower, immediately when I realized they were sitting on lotus flowers, I remembered I Pet Goat too. Now, a lot of you guys have seen this. I don't know of anybody that hasn't seen it, but there may be. And I'm going to take you out there. I'm not going to play it all for you, but I'm going to play a pertinent part for you. Okay? So, but right now, I'm going to explain this lotus flower. In Buddhist symbolism, the lotus is symbolic of purity of the body, speech, and mind. As while rooted in the mud, its flowers blossom on long stalks as if floating above the muddy waters of attachment and desire. It is also symbolic of detachment as drops of water easily slide off its petals. Lotus flower blooms can take on spiritual meaning, the spiritual meaning of ascension, enlightenment, or rebirth. Now, if you know anything about Luciferian doctrine, what's the goal? The goal is enlightenment and ascension to a higher plane. Now, I know, unfortunately, a lot about that because I was in a church that claimed to be a church, but it was not. It was Luciferian. And because I went through so many years of trying to figure out what the heck happened to me there, I really delved into this stuff. So this is actually an area that is very familiar to me. and maybe to you as well. So, because I know some of you guys are really studiers and you get out there and you research stuff, so this may be very familiar to you as well. But the lotus flower is just, it's very significant. And the fact that they're both over it and sitting on it is significant. And just let me get back up here. Dang it. I'm always struggling with this. Okay. Now, this is interesting, okay? Virtually every god and goddess of Hinduism is typically shown sitting on the lotus, often holding a lotus flower in their hand, the lotus, which serves thus as the seat of deity, signifying their divinity and purity. So what are they saying to us here? Because it's obvious that they're all lined up like that for a reason. I mean, it's just too obvious. So let me go back here, actually. I'm sorry, I'm indecisive of where I want to take you because I've got all this stuff and I want to, give it to you all at once, and I can't. So, okay. So that's that picture, all right? So what about the Obama picture? Because remember, Q told us, find the link. What's the link? Well, we're about to see the link. Now, the artist said that the painting of Obama included African blue lilies in honor of Obama's father. However, let me point something out to you. Okay, there's actually 3 kinds of flowers here, and I guess these are just the buds that haven't come out yet on the chrysanthemums. These are chrysanthemums. This is white jasmine. These are ivy leaves. And he's sitting in a very ornate chair in a garden. And he's surrounded by 3 different types of flowers. Now, whenever you see flowers in a painting like that, they're symbolic, always. Now, the artist is saying they're symbolic of one thing. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. He's saying that these African blue lilies are there in honor of his African father. Now, I bet you 99.9% of the population buys that. I don't. You know why? He's stepping on it. He has definitely got that foot raised and he is stepping on that flower. It's at his foot, it's at his left foot. So there's one here and one here and he's stepping on it. Do you really think that that's symbolic of his father? I don't. Not for a second. So let's see what it could be symbolic of. Now, here's something else that's interesting that I notice about this. His one hand is pointing down to this flower, and his other hand is pointing directly at that flower. That's got to be significant. It's got to be. The other thing I notice is that one eye is darker than the other, and this eye is a little bit grayed out, giving him that look of the one eye that is so popular with the Illuminati. That's the other thing I notice. So let's go up and see what these flowers mean. Okay, now remember, the artist said that the African blue lilies were in honor of Obama's African father. However, if someone painted me and then painted me stepping on a flower which he said represented my father, I would be offended. I really would. So the name, the genus name is Agapanthus. I'm mangling that. Okay, and it's derived from two Greek words, agape, which I think most people know. I mean, certainly religious people would know what agape is. That means love. And anthos means flower. It's a love flower. Taken together, the agapanthus is the flower of love. It is sometimes also known as African lily or lily of the Nile, tributes to its African origins. So that is a love flower. So it represents love. That flower represents love. So why is he stepping on it? I don't know. And I'll tell you one thing. I know some of you will say, oh, come on, you're overthinking that. No, I'm not. Because I'm telling you, in the art world, everything has meaning. It does, unless you're doing abstract art, and then even then sometimes it has meaning. It definitely has meaning. That's why people stand for hours in front of paintings at museums, and they're looking at the symbolisms and the shadows and the rhythm in the painting and just everything. Everything means something. And that's why people go to museums and just stare and look and see and interpret. So, now the yellow chrysanthemum, this is interesting, okay, because there are both yellow chrysanthemums and there are red chrysanthemums in that painting. The yellow means neglected love or sorrow, and red means love and deep passion. So I'm not sure what the deeper meaning of that is and what it refers to in his life, but that's what those flowers are symbolic of. Now, the last thing that he put in there is white jasmine. And I believe the author, if I can remember correctly, said that white jasmine was symbolic of his home in Hawaii, his childhood home in Hawaii or whatever. Right. We know that he wasn't born in Hawaii, but let's just humor them, okay? White jasmine, it is not only used to honor the gods, but also the dead. It is thought it can help purify the individual as they pass on to another stage of life. That is why it is symbolic of both hope and spirituality. So that's interesting. So what about the ivy leaves? Because he is just absolutely surrounded by ivy leaves. Ivy as an evergreen is perennial life and immortality. So again, we're with the God thing and immortality and enlightenment and evolving to the next level. So there was something else I wanted to point out here, and I'm trying to jog. Oh, yes, of course, the most obvious. He's seated in the garden, in a garden. But I believe it's the garden, because symbolically, that's what all the Luciferians are trying to do, is get back to the garden. And that would take a long time. It would take a very, very long time. And probably some of you, I'm sure maybe a good many of you understand this about the Luciferian doctrine, but some of you probably don't. And I apologize because, and there I go apologizing again, I just don't have the time to get into all that, because that would be hours and hours. So let's move on and push on, and just know that those two pictures do have a link in that they're both symbolic, and both symbolic of godhood, deity, spiritualism, evolving to the next level. So let's go up to the next one. And I think we looked at that, the lotus and all that, and why they're perfectly lined up. And we're up to here. It's like whiplash, because these topics are so far apart, seemingly. They're so far apart, because we were just looking at that, and now we're looking into Chris Wallace. Don't blame me, blame Q for your whiplash. Okay, so an anonymous user posted this. Chris Wallace looks clean as far as those descriptors used by Q are concerned. Looking into Matthews now. Now, Q responds to this person, and we can tell that because it's directed at him. And he gives us a link, and he says, "You're not looking close enough." Q. I like that. It's just simple and to the point. You're not looking close enough. So let's go out and look and see about Mike Wallace, because obviously Q is wanting to point something out. Well, he was an American journalist, game show host, actor, and media personality. I mean, I think everybody knows who Mike Wallace was. But maybe not, because 2012 he died. It's possible that younger people might not. He interviewed a wide range of prominent newsmakers during his 7-decade career. He was one of the original correspondents for CBS 60 Minutes, which debuted in 1968. Wallace retired as a regular full-time correspondent in 2006, but still appeared occasionally on the series until 2008. He has made interviews with many politicians, celebrities, and academics, such as Pearl S. Buck, Deng Xiaoping, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, and some other people I can't. Oh, Kurt Waldheim. Oh, I'm familiar with him. Salvador Dali. Ayn Rand. Anyway, just seeing all these people their names I recognize. Okay, so Wallace, whose family surname was originally Wallach, was born in Brookline, Massachusetts, to Russian Jewish immigrant parents, Frank and Zena Scharfman Wallace, and he publicly identified himself as a Jew throughout his life. His father was a grocer and insurance broker. Wallace attended Brookline High School, graduating in 1935. He graduated from we don't care about any of that. What do we care about here? I don't even really know what we're looking for here, because Q gave us this link and said look into it more. I mean, I think that Q is pointing out this guy is an elite, or was an elite rather, when he was alive, and I mean that wouldn't be hard to figure out. So I really don't know. He had 2 children with his first wife. His younger son Chris is also a journalist. His elder son Peter died at age 19. I don't see anything that's like absolutely jumping out and slapping me, but it's obvious he had an illustrious career, a long illustrious career, and was obviously had inroads to be able to speak to the people that he spoke with and interview them. So obviously Q is telling us, I think, the only reason he took us out here is to show us, this guy's elite. He was part of that circle. It just escaped my memory. Oh well. Sorry, it's getting late. It's 12:20 if you're on medication. I don't know why I say that. All right. I gotta come back to myself here and move on. Now, this is where we're going to get interesting. Okay, before we move up to this, I want to show you 2 things out here on the net. We'll get out of this stuff. Okay. Oh, there's the Obama picture and a bigger one. And maybe you can see it here that he is stepping on this flower here. Okay, now that's not what I came out here to get. I want to show you something. I know that most of you have seen this, and I'm not going to play the whole thing, and I'm going to turn the volume off because there's music behind this and I'll get a copyright strike because they're just being ridiculous. So I want to show you something that you may have missed in this video, okay? Now, this is the Trump video that is just incredibly well done. And it's like this video will get Donald Trump elected. And I played it in one of my videos. So I'm just going to let this play for a second. We're just a few seconds away from what I want you to see. And I'll pause it. And of course, there we go. See that? And it stays on it for several seconds. And then it goes to the Statue of Liberty. So let's go back here because this is very important. All of a sudden this clicked in for me. Yeah, it's on that flag, that torn flag, for several seconds before it cuts to the Statue of Liberty. When I saw that the first time, something kind of was like a knife in me. And I remember thinking, where have I seen that before? Where have I seen that flag before? That torn flag. And why would he show a torn flag? I don't know. So, and I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm just posing more questions because there's a connection here. Now, I'm going to take you out to this I Pet Goat 2. Now, I am sure that you all have seen this. If not, you must, because it is worth seeing. There's so much symbolism in here, like incredible symbolism in here. And I do happen to believe that the creators of this have inside knowledge because there's just too much in here. But I want to show you something. Okay, and again, I've got to turn the sound off, and I apologize, but there I go apologizing again. But I don't want a copyright strike because then, anyway. Now I'm going to play this, George Bush. Okay, now I'm just pointing out a couple things in the background. That is definitely a penis ejaculating. And over here, there's a house on fire. Here's a shark. And over here is the word evolution with you and I. Maybe it shows it better. No. And I think it's the U and the I are missing. So here's Bush. And he's doing fool me once. And then he says, fool me, you can't get fooled again. Yeah, it's U-N-I-O. U-I-O is missing. Okay, and that's the teacher. And this is actually like the classroom setting of 9/11, right? Okay, see the split, the lightning between the two brains, two halves of the brain? That's very important. I mean, there's a dragon here. This is a heart. I don't exactly know what this is, but it's interesting that the map is marked, like New York out here is marked, which was the site of the, was it? The big oil spill, the BP oil spill. I was in Louisiana at that time, so now... And this is New Orleans, Katrina, and I'm not sure what this is actually. That could be Oklahoma. I'm not sure. Oklahoma City bombing. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just pointing out a few things that I've seen in here, but we're getting to them. Oh, and the black and white checkered floor, of course, is symbolic of the Masonic and also duality. That's what that stands for, is duality. And he's giving the sign of the devil here. Now he's going to turn into Obama. And there's Obama. And if you notice, he's got the crescent and the moon just slightly there. You can barely make it out, but it's showing that he's Muslim. And he's even more of a puppet, really, because I mean, they're even telling him when to laugh. Now, we're going to get into something interesting here. Here is, I guess it could be, I guess it's Alice. She's got an apple. She's dressed in white. She's obviously for her purity. Now look at the people behind her. They're all in barbed wire, and they're nameless, faceless, kind of shapeless. And how many of them are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Just like the disciples, sort of. And they're all back here. Some of them are melted together. They're just shapeless. Now, what do you see on the wall behind her? A white rabbit. Interesting. Oh, and a flower, a lily. And we've got a stag over here, a buck. And she is in a circle. Now, what's this? Could that be a Q? Could it? I don't know. Now, she's being, put to sleep here. I guess she's going to join the ranks of these guys back here. I don't know. But she's within this circle, and she's got the apple in her hand. And then the exit shows up, and the white rabbit. There's still a spotlight on the white rabbit. Now, she's going to drop the apple, and it's rolling. Where does it roll to? Oh, the foot of Obama. And I don't know what this says. It could be LC. It could be, this doesn't carry all the way around, so it's probably a C. LC. Now, the apple breaks apart, and what happens? The two worms join, and what do they turn into? A lotus flower. Right at Obama's feet. But Obama doesn't seem overly happy about that. Why? He's sweating. Now, it's like he's seen something horrible in this lotus flower, and he's kind of still got his eyes wide open. He's, kind of almost in shock. And as it pulls away, we see on the side of the building, Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff, that one. Now, okay, now pay attention, because this is, and there's that same lightning. Okay, now, it's pulling away, it's winter time. Oh, there goes part of the flag. And what do we have here? What do we have here? Yeah. So, what do you think of that? I don't know what to think. I really don't. But I know there's a connection there. I just know in my knower. So let's go back. I had to show that to you guys because I just did. When I find exciting things like that, I have to share them. Now, Q says in his next post, flowers and gardens, learn the hidden symbolism. And indeed, there is a lot of symbolism in flowers and gardens. And anyway, he takes us, then he gives us this link, okay? And we're going to go out there. And it's an interesting link. And I didn't understand at first why he was giving it to us. It's about slave gardens. And it says to supplement basic provisions provided by their master, some bondspeople grew their own foodstuff and staple crops for personal consumption or sale. Enslaved men and women typically tended these gardens or patches after they had finished their daily or weekly work for their master. For some slaves, these gardens provided crucial supplements to otherwise nutrient-deprived diet. To extent to which Mon people and their masters relied on slave gardens for basic provisioning depended on the type of labor system employed and the region in which the plantation was situated. So basically, sometimes often they would provide a little plot of land for the slaves to work, but they didn't own that. It still belonged to the slave master, but they were allowed to eat the fruits from it, and whatever it grew, they were allowed to eat for themselves. The slaves were allowed to eat for themselves. And in some cases, they were allowed to take that to market to make some extra money for themselves and barter for things. So that's basically the whole gist of this article. It's going through the different types of gardens that they were given, but it always belonged to the master, and they didn't own it. But they worked it. And they worked it, you would think, oh, that's so nice of the master. Isn't that nice of him to give them a little car? I mean, obviously, slavery is a horrible thing. But, you might think, oh, well, that he was at least being a little kind and giving them a little plot of land. No, he wasn't. He'd have to feed them less if he did that. If he didn't have them work their own little plot of land, he'd have to feed them all, right? And, I'm sure he supplemented their diet with whatever. It was in his best interest to keep them healthy. But, they'd work all day for him, and then they'd come home and they'd tend their own little plot of land so that they could get their food. So that's what Q was pointing out to us in that. So, flowers and gardens. Learn the hidden symbolism. What does a flower represent? Well, usually a flower represents youth, innocence, purity, virginity. What does deflower represent? Well, I think we all know what it means to deflower someone, but it usually means the taking of a female's virginity, although not always, and often in the context of defilement, i.e. rape or other acts of predation or parasitism. So that's what deflower means, and it's never a good thing. Like, it's never depicted as, well, I guess some people, I'll just skip right over that because maybe some people, I don't know. Okay, now, Q is telling us here, think children, think slaves, think sheep. Q. Now, then Q says up here, he requotes himself, okay, from this, learn the hidden symbolism, what does a flower, what does a deflower, and then down below he says, he's giving more clues. Think children, think slaves, think sheep. Now, then he says, actually, he is referencing this one up here because one of the Anons asked Q, said, controlling the crops controls the people, sheep, might be reaching but throwing it out there. And Q responds to that and says, coincidence, the Matrix movie grew people as a crop used for energy and controlled their mind. Now, and he says, sound familiar? Yeah, sounds familiar. And you know why? Because we're slaves. We work for them. How many months do you have to work out of the year just to pay your taxes? And they give us a small plot of land. Of course, we pay for it with our sweat and our equity and our tears, and we never really own it because we have to keep paying tax on it. And then, with eminent domain, if they want to build a road through your property, they're going to take it anyway. They'll give you what they think is fair. So, yeah, aren't we exactly like those slaves? We're working for them. We're working for big government, the big house. And they give us our little piece of the American dream, their little piece. And we buy that with our, with our sweat and our time. But we never own it. So that's what Q is trying to wake us up to, that fact that we are slaves. Now he says, sound familiar? Wonder where they derived that idea from. Now comes the conspiracy label. Deeper we go, the more unrealistic it all becomes. The end won't be for everyone. That choice to know will be yours. Interesting. And that is true, because I think that the more you get into it, it does become unreal. And when you try to start telling people that have no clue, that haven't even begun the process yet, they think you're nuts. They think you're crazy. Because their reality is so managed for them that they can't think outside of that. So, this is the last post for today that he's done, that I know of. And it's February 12th and 15:15. And of course, we've all heard about the letter that had the substance in it. And I'll take you out to that link in a moment. Our attack on Big Pharma came with a warning letter today. Now, what he's saying is, remember when he was talking about Big Pharma and that they have a cure and blah, blah, blah? Well, he's saying this letter was a warning letter. And so he's saying our attack on Big Pharma came with a warning letter. And message received. And he said, and then I love this, response forthcoming, Q. So let's go out and just look at this in case you have missed the news today, which I doubt, but one never knows. Donald Trump Jr.'s wife taken to hospital after opening envelope with white powder. Now, it is my understanding that she is fine. The wife of Donald Trump hang on here. Oops. Sorry. So, the powder was later deemed to be non-hazardous, New York City told Fox News. But I think this was a warning, and I think that what they were saying is, the next one might not be non-hazardous. So these guys are playing, high stakes. This is high stakes. President Trump's daughter-in-law opened the letter addressed to Donald Trump Jr. just after 10 a.m. at the couple's Manhattan apartment. It's unclear what the white powder was, but authorities tested the substance and found it to be non-hazardous. She was taken to the hospital as a precaution, police said. 2 other people who were also exposed to the powder were taken to the hospital. A hazmat crew was called to the scene and began decontamination procedures shortly after the incident. Trump Jr. tweeted of the scary situation on Monday afternoon and blamed the incident on people with opposing views. Thankful that Vanessa and my children are safe and unharmed after the incredibly scary situation that occurred this morning, Trump Jr. said. Truly disgusting that certain individuals choose to express their opposing views with such disturbing behavior, and I completely agree. So, that is that for the Q drops for today. I don't imagine that there would be more because we started at 10 to 12, but one never knows. So I will check before going to bed, and if not, I will see you probably have a video tomorrow. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And if you want to stay subscribed to me, just check the subscribe button, because they do desubscribe, unsubscribe, I guess would be a better, people. So anyway, just check on that, because I know that there are people that I really appreciate listening to, and all of a sudden I'm not subscribed to them anymore. It really ticks me off. So anyway, have a wonderful night, and I will talk to you later. I appreciate all you guys. Bye-bye.